Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 16 of the 25 Vuelta a España. Today's stage is the first day after the second rest day, so anything can happen to the rider's legs. We always hear that story. Personally, I always had good legs after the rest day. I enjoyed the rest day. I never did much training, usually about 30, maybe 45 minutes on the trainer, just spinning and out, because I always had something tight in the body, some kind of tendon issue that was a little tight, whether if it was in my wrist up here from standing too much on the climb, where I was bending my wrists a lot because I'm standing a ton, or if it was down on one of my feet or Achilles heel or behind the knee or a knee problem. I always had something. So I always use rest days as basically a time to try to get my last bit of recovery. And certainly when we're talking about the last recovery day, you want as much as you can because the final week of any Grand Tour is always exciting. So let's go into today's stage because we know at about 168 kilometers, I'll call it 105 miles in length, with 4 categorized climbs coming in the second half. We're talking about 90, 70 kilometers to go. We're getting in there about 27 kilometers to go. And then the final climb, it's a summit stage. I forgot to mention that, but a summit stage with about 9 kilometers on the final climb going all the way up to finish out today's stage 16. So it should be one for the GC battle, there's no doubt about it, because we have a 48-second gap between Jonas Vingegaard, wearing the race leader's red jersey, red like just behind me, and of course second place, we know that as being Almeida, the Portuguese rider from UAE Team Emirates. Just behind him, Tom Pidcock. We're getting a little bit further up there, higher sides of 2 minutes, and then we go into 3 minutes and 10 seconds. That's Jai Hindley. 5th is Felix Gall on today's start of today's stage 16. So let's get into the stage when the cameras come on proper. What we see is 16 riders going up the road. What we also see right away is there's 4 teams in there that have multiple numbers. FDJ have fantastic numbers because they have 3 riders in this front group. When we look at Ineos, they have 2 riders in this front group. One is Egan Bernal, and the other is my old teammate Bob Jungels up there. So Ineos represented with 2 riders. We look at the next team, Arkea Samsic have 2 riders, and then we look at Soudal Quickstep. They got Mikel Landa. And they have Maury van Savenot. He happens to be the son of one of my teammates from Lotto Destiny, right here, looking at this jersey. So there's a lot of bit of chemistry up here for me to be cheering for in this front break of 16 riders. We go back and look at the peloton at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Visma Bikes riding the front with the same duo up there that always have been. Wilco Kelderman, Dylan Van Barley. Okay, we know the gap at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. It's still questionable whether or not if we're fighting for the stage. But we see Visma Bikes not in much of a hurry because Alpecin de Koenig sitting second on the wheel, which tells everybody sitting on the Chesterfield the peloton right now is calm as a bomb with just 2 Visma Bike riders on the front. We come into the first of the KOM climbs as the camera was taking us into that action with the 16 riders, and it had already started. We know these guys are going to go up over the top. Nico Den's grabbing maximum KOM points, which is telling us what? Tells us the 16 riders up here did not go up this climb incredibly fast because Nico Den's is certainly not a climber. But when we look at the group one more time, we got to pay attention because I left the rider off. I didn't really leave the rider off. I'm going to talk about him now. It's Marc Soler. Soler's UAE Team Emirates. Guys, you know I've called them knuckleheads for sending riders up in the break multiple times, wasting energy when they got Almeida sitting second on the general classification at 48 seconds. So you look at this group immediately when you're sitting on the Chesterfield, you think 16 riders, got at least 2 teams that have super climbers on there. Egan Bernal, Team Ineos with a teammate. But we've seen Egan Bernal not climbing so good in the second week here at the Vuelta a España. The other climber is Mikel Landa. These 2 climbers are ace climbers. We're talking about Giro d'Italia winner and a Tour de France winner in 2019. And Mikel Landa, Soudal Quickstep, well, he's podium and gone top 5 in Grand Tours throughout a ton of times on his resume. So when you see that, you know these two riders to watch, but you don't know exactly where they're at on form because the second week here at the Vuelta a España has not gone so well for Egan Bernal. And remember, Landa gets a little bit of a card to get out of jail free because he crashed at the Giro d'Italia badly on stage 1. So he's just trying to find some legs back. So then you look at this group of 16, you figure out, well, who's the next best climber? It's got to be Marc Soler, right? Does anyone want to argue with me that Marc Soler is the best climber in this group at the moment? But you cannot argue that Mikel Landa and Egan Bernal's form could switch at any moment, especially Landa because he's probably coming in here kind of fresh. But being fresh could do one or 2 things, make you really good or make you really bad. So we look at this group, we know it's gelling well together. Time gap keeps going up to about 5 minutes. We go into the next climb at 68 kilometers to go. This is where, when we see the gap up to about 5.5 minutes on Viz Melissa bike-led peloton back there, we're going to start seeing some action, because once we get into about 3 kilometers to go on this climb, I'll call it 61, 62 kilometers to go at the top, Mikel Landa starts throwing in some attacks. I take you into stage 15. Remember stage 15 before the rest day? Remember coming into the final 7 kilometers, Mads Pedersen was money. Now, I didn't mention it on the butterfly effect that day, but I'll tell you for a fact, I just forgot to put it in. Mads Pedersen never drifted to the back of that 9-rider group once they came into the finish, especially with 7 kilometers to go, and especially with 4 kilometers to go. He wanted guys to rotate through with them, and he wanted to have them, of course, doing some work on the front, but he never went to the back when it got dangerous. If you see, he was always 4th or 5th wheel. That gives him escape and ability to cover attacks that happen right away. Now, Solaire's sitting at the back. So if we're sitting in a group of 15 riders right now, he's 3rd, 4th, 5th from the back, that means there's 10 plus riders in front of him. That's a pretty big gap. And right now, Mikel Landa's going up the road. We don't know what kind of form he has. So as he's throwing in the acceleration, as Solaire's sitting in the back, we see Egan Bernal, and he's got a little French help back there too that's trying to go with him. Egan Bernal is going to bridge the gap. Eventually, Alfonso from FDJ is going to bridge the gap too. But before we get to that, we got to back up and see what's happening with Solaire. Because Solaire's sitting in the middle of the group as it's splitting with about 5 or 6 riders on his wheel, and the group is split in half while Mikel Landa's going up the road and Egan Bernal's up there. This gap's still really close though. We're talking 5-7 seconds. It's devastatingly close at this moment. They could get brought back at any moment because Mikel Landa and Egan Bernal might not be 100% on form. We know that. So you see Solaire back there trying to close the gap. As he starts to close the gap, you start asking yourself, what were you doing back there if you still got this kind of legs? Well, he's closing the gap, and then we go up front. We see the 3 riders are still holding the gap up there at about 7 seconds, and Solaire start playing some games back there. So as Solaire's playing some games, we see him sprinting around the second group as it had opened up again, and he's sprinting around the 4 or 5 riders with him. If I back the film all the way up, Maury Van Savenhoff Pseudo Quickstep had gotten dropped early on this climb, but now as we're coming up closer to the top with about 900 meters to go, 600 meters to go, Solaire's sprinting around, and it looks like he's got some magical legs. I don't know why he was sitting at the back other than just trying to play possum back there, right? So as he's closing up, we're coming up to the KOM. That Mikel Landa already went over first. Egan Bernal and Alfonso went with him. And as Solaire was trying to close the gap at the top, closing these 2 groups up, well, the next FDJ rider, Roland, slips off the front, and Nico Dens, Bora Hansgrohe, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe is back there too, trying to close the gap. We don't have to wait too much longer as they're coming down the descent that we look at the back of the group. Solaire's back there opening up gaps. I mean, so much so that at one point in time, Maury Van Savenhoff comes back into the group. Now, if I back you all the way up into 61 kilometers to go with 3 kilometers on this climb, when we first saw Mikel Landa attacking, if Mikel Landa had magical legs, if Egan Bernal had magical legs, this would be a knucklehead move. But if you haven't had the best of legs throughout the Volta a España, especially in the middle stages of the Volta a España, well, this move is great because you got to get rid of Marc Solaire. This is what I was telling you that every breakaway rider had to do when Marc Solaire won his stage, when Ayuso won his stage, and when Jay Vine won his 2 stages. And Ayuso would throw for 2 stages there too because Romo pulled with him nonstop. Now we go back and look at the peloton as they're coming over the top of the climb. It's the same 2 guys on the front, Wilco Kelderman, Dylan Van Barley, and my man Victor Campenaerts didn't start today's stage, so Viz Melissa bike's only down to 6 riders right now. So the 2 riders on front, they are incredibly crucial. And then the 3 riders that are with Jonas Vingegaard, Jorgensen, Ben Toulet, and Sepp Kuss, the second American here on Viz Melissa bike, they got to play some crucial roles because they only have 6 riders. So if you went back into that week 1 and that week 2 when UAE team members were attacking like crazy, spinning bullets all over the place and wasting the legs from Javine and Ayuso, and then we go into the Angleroo stage where Grossschartner surprised us all, right? Grossschartner was spectacular. I told you guys he was spectacular, but he wasn't so good at the first part of the week. But now you take a look at Viz Melissa bike with what? 6 riders left because 2 riders are out. My man Victor Campenaerts been sick out on the rest day, but Axel Zingel crashed in the first week of the Volta a España, so that's why I keep telling you guys, when UAE team members have 7 victories And now they're still up the road with Marc Soler at this moment, who's been driving like crazy trying to close gaps, and at the same time swinging off the back of the group when we're coming down the descents. There's this false little bump as they come off that second KOM climb that the 3 leaders that became 4 that are now 5 with Nico Dens on the back. Those guys are hitting this bump, and we start seeing that Soler's still at the back while riders start dropping back there. Of course, we look at the rider Stewart, Jake Stewart from Premier Tech. He came off the back on this bump, and then Cepeda, Movistar have lost all kind of climbing legs here later in the Vuelta a España. He's coming off the back. But again, we see Soler messing around at the back, then he's kind of at the front, then he's kind of at the back. It's a little bit ridiculous how he's riding because you have 5 riders going up the road. The games need to stop right now if you're Marc Soler. They certainly need to come to an end because you need to get some chemistry. And the problem is in this back group, after you start losing Stewart, Mari van Savenhoff was never going to pull because Mikel Landa's up the road. So remember, when Mikel Landa was back there attacking, he knows his legs can't be that good, even though he has teammates, so he's got to go up the road, get rid of Soler. But Mari van Savenhoff's found his way back in the group's occasion time. He's going to slow it down. Bob Jungels is going to slow it down. And FDJ, Rudy Millard's going to do a lot of work of slowing it down. So Soler needs to read the chemistry in the room right now, thinking that, wow, either you're going to have to bridge when those attacks first started from Landa and Egan Bernal, or now you're going to have guys that are sitting on for company that don't want to do any work, and that's what he's got in the name of Bob Jungels and Rudy Millard. So we come into this little bump with about 35 kilometers to go. The gap has started to extend up to about 25 seconds, and then Soler's going ape on the front. I mean, Soler's getting on the front, and he is driving it. He has got it single filed out with 7 riders. Then we see Rudy Millard comes off. That leaves us 6. We go into 5 riders once we see Lewis from Arkea Samsic drop. And when we look up front, Nico Dens has got a 100% ugly face because the group up front, the 4 riders, are really drilling. Nico Dens has been taking some pulls. And if I'm being really picky up here, Nico Dens, you're a bit of knucklehead. When you bridge across, you probably should have just been sitting on. But right now, you're hanging on the back while the 4 riders are working pretty well in harmony up front. And Nico Dens is swinging big time. But Soler is drilling it back there. Soler is going to drop everyone off when they come to this fake little bump here. It's a summit bump, as you see him dropping over top. But it's not a category climb right here. But we see it's Finlay, and we see it's Marc Soler chasing. They had gotten the gap down to about 20 seconds, but now these 5 riders are starting to drill because Nico Dens is back at the front. Nico Dens got some power, so you know he's drilling it down these descents with 4 riders on his wheel and all those 4 riders rotating through, which means Soler is going to need some help. We go back and we see that Finlay back there, pinkering, he starts pulling through for Bahrain Victorious. As he's pulling through, the gap to the peloton, still being led by 2 riders, is kept extending. Now we're coming into the next sprint, intermediate sprint points competition. Nico Dens is going to roll through the front, and they're holding about a 25-second gap. But we're coming into the penultimate category climb here on stage 16 of the Vuelta a España. That means what? That means 5 guys. And Nico Dens, you better hold on for dear life. The FDJ riders, hopefully, Landa and Egan Bernal don't have great 2019 climbing form for Egan Bernal or Landa's form at the Tour de France in years past. Otherwise, you guys are knuckleheads too. But at this moment, I agree with you 100%. This looked like a great chemistry and a good team to work with because Marc Soler is not here. So they start going up this climb. It's super narrow. It's technical. The road looks a little bit rough. And they're holding still about 25-second gap. When we look behind, Soler has to start riding the front. As Soler's riding the front going up this climb, he's still got these guys in sight now at about 17 seconds, 20 seconds when they're coming through these switchbacks, and we see Nico Dens, the first rider to pop. Okay, we could definitely see this coming. But can Nico Dens salvage something out of this? I didn't agree with him working up there, but I didn't quite call him a knucklehead. Oh, yes, I might have. Okay, as he comes out the back, Soler still drilling. Soler and Finlay, they're coming up to the back of Nico Dens, and Soler still got to get on the front. Now, these guys are getting far ways up the climb, and we see that Egan Bernal's drilling it. We got Landa up there, and we got Afonso up there, but we got 1 rider missing. Roland from FDJ has dropped off. He can't handle the pace there from Mikel Landa and Egan Bernal. Now, as those guys have come down to 3 riders, we're going to go back and look at the peloton because now they're going to stop playing around back there because Bahrain Victorious is on the front. They're drilling it, and you got to remember the last 4 kilometers of this penultimate climb, we're talking 9% with 18% sections. If you didn't see that from the picture that I showed you there with Egan Bernal and Landa drilling it at the front, now I'm telling you they got 18% sections. So Bahrain Victorious is going ape on the front of the peloton because they got Torsten Tray in. They want to get rid of Billy Lesurf that made up some time on stage 15, but they need to get him out of the way and maybe have some other riders drop too while we're going up the penultimate climb. With Bahrain Victorious taking over the front of the peloton, I want you to look over there to the left side of the peloton. I believe that rider's called Ayuso. Now, slightly in front of Ayuso, not far off the front, I'm going to call this rider right here because he's wearing a polka dot jersey, Jay Vine. So we see 2 UAE team Emirates, Ayuso and Jay Vine, not near the front. Then we go up behind the Visma bike up there that's behind Bahrain Victorious, and we start seeing UAE team Emirates. Well, we know Almeida's one of them. We start looking over, we see Ivo Oliveira's there, Großschartner's behind Almeida, and then, of course, we have Domen Novak in the picture, but Ivo Oliveira, Domen Novak, those aren't great climbers. It's supposed to be Ayuso and Jay Vine, but they've won 2 stages here at the Vuelta a España. Now we're coming into this right turn. Once we come into this right turn, the climb really starts proper. This is the last 4 kilometers for the peloton. So Bahrain Victorious, fantastic position. Visma bike, all their guys, fantastic position, all 4 of them. Now we look, Tom Pidcock's in this front group. Almeida's made this front group too, but Jay Vine and Ayuso, they're not in this front part as we see Bahrain Victorious drilling it up the steep section here, trying to blow this peloton up. It's not going to take them very long before there's a huge explosion in the peloton, and we're left with about 20 riders going up the penultimate climb. Bahrain Victorious is still drilling it on the front. We start looking at the back. We see first it's Ivo Oliveira, UAE team members, that's getting dropped. He's got Billy Lesurf with him sitting in the top 10 of general classification that snuck in on stage 15. So top 10's coming out. I think he was 9th if I remember correctly. As he's coming out, we look at the next UAE team Emirates rider getting dropped. That's Domen Novak. Okay, that means there's only 2 up here in this front group. And when we get the up top view, we look at a group of about 15, 20 riders at the most. 3 Bahrain Victorious guys drilling it on the front. Almeida is isolated at the front. We look at the back of this group. Großschartner's still holding on the back. So it doesn't matter so much if Almeida's isolated at the front as long as his teammate makes it over this climb. Remember, we're talking about 26 kilometers to go right now, maybe just there under. And Großschartner's hanging off the back, suffering big time. We see Felix Gall come into the picture, and then we go back up to look at the front view, looking back down towards the peloton with Bahrain Victorious drilling on the front. Felix Gall's blowing. So Felix Gall's sitting 5th on the general classification. This is the next casualty besides Billy Lesurf coming out. Felix Gall's getting dropped. We go to the back of the peloton. Großschartner sprinting, trying to get onto the back of the peloton because he knows Almeida's all by himself. Solaire's up the road, been spending energy all over the place trying to win his 8th stage here for UAE Team Emirates and probably their 10th time trying to win a stage here at the Vuelta a España. We're only 16 days into it. It's knuckleheadism. But eventually Solaire's going to get the call up front and know he's got to stop pedaling and come back because Almeida's in difficulty. Now we go to back to the peloton and we see there's one other rider in difficulty, and it's Torsten Tray near the summit of this climb. Torsten Tray at the back. Santiago Petrago did a great job of blowing this race up. If I back the film up a little bit, then he pulled off to the side, and it was Tiberi that was up there. Antonio Tiberi pulling on the front. But we look at Torsten Tray now at the back. This is going to be a gift right here to Großschartner and Almeida because it's going to allow Almeida to have a teammate once Großschartner closes back up. Now the next problem, when we look at the top front of the peloton from the side view, we look at Jonas Vingegaard there in the race leader's red jersey, 48-second advantage over Almeida. He looks back over his shoulder, and then all of a sudden there's problems. We see Ben Toulet get on the radio directly. Both riders move over to the right side of the peloton. They're going to have to exchange bikes. Now again, this is why you don't want to win stages in a Grand Tour. You have 2 riders missing from Visma bike, 1 sick. That could happen to any team. You have to plan for that. You could have a mechanical at any point in time in a race. And if this mechanical was happening to Almeida right now with 4 Visma bike riders on the front, 3, they can drill them right now. We're talking about Jorgensen, Sepp Kuss, and Ben Toulet. But instead, we're looking at a different scenario. We're looking at Ben Toulet and we're looking at Jonas Vingegaard exchanging bikes. Ben Toulet's giving this push here on Jonas Vingegaard. He's having some problems getting into his pedals. I cannot guarantee this next bit of information I'm giving. But if you look at the left hand there from Penultimate, it looks like it might be pushing on the handlebars of Jonas Vingegaard, which could cause the bike to swerve a little bit, and we're seeing that. So I don't know if we're seeing that because he's actually pushing on the bars, which I believe he is, or it's the fact that Jonas can't get in the pedals, but it could be the fact that he's pushing on the bars, causing the bars to swerve and the bike to swerve, and now Jonas can't get in the pedals. Eventually, Jonas does get in the pedals, and we see Penultimate give a big push. Now, we go up front and look at this group that's down to about a dozen riders, 13, something like that. It's incredibly small. We look at Sepp Kuss. Sepp Kuss is waiting back at the back of this group for Jonas Vingegaard, which is the way you want to do it. If you can't out-climb Jonas Vingegaard on a climb that has 18% sections, and now it's just starting to ease off near the summit of this climb, you want to wait at the back so the best climber, your best rider in the race, wearing the race leader's red jersey, bridges back to you, and then you bring him on. And then your second rider's doing what? Jorgensen's going to the front of this group, slowing it down. Jorgensen, you're playing money tactics right here. They're fantastic. Sepp Kuss, same thing. Penultimate, fantastic job with the exception of that little push, I think, on the handlebars. And Jonas, fantastic to know to switch bikes and not wait for your team vehicle back there. So Jonas is back in the picture. It's looking solid. Bahrain Victorious is on the front. We go up and look at the three riders up front. Oh, man. Bad luck is starting to strike right now with about 15 kilometers to go. Because when we look at Alfonso up there, the FDJ rider with a shot at winning today's stage 16 of the Vuelta a España, he's got a rear wheel flat. He's got to wait for Shimano back there to help him out. So that leaves us two riders at the front. Egan Bernal, 2019 Tour de France champion and a Giro champion. And we look there at Mikel Landa, Soudal Quickstep. These two riders are going to come into the finish of today's stage because when we look at the next group back there with Nico Dens, these guys are about 1 minute and 10 seconds off. And guess what, guys? With about 15 kilometers to go, the commentators came on to tell us that they are going to cancel the final summit climb on today's stage 16 because there's a massive protest up there. So, again, when we're talking UAE team members with 7 victories here at the Vuelta a España, knuckleheadism, victories at its best. Every second counts, and especially every second counts here at the Vuelta a España because stages can get canceled. We already saw stage 11 get canceled, and we saw UAE team members still wasting bullets throughout other stages trying to win instead of trying to find ways for Almeida to get time back. Well, now with that in mind, we got just about 10 kilometers to go of the old distance, which is really just became 2 because they're going to cancel the stage at 8 kilometers to go. When the final climb, what was supposed to be the final climb starts proper, that's where it's going to stop. So I take you into about 1 kilometer to go. Remember, there is no 1 kilometer marker, so I'm guessing here. We look at front, it's Mikel Landa driving it through this little chicane where what was originally going to be the final summit climb start proper. He's leading. As he's leading, Egan Bernal hits out hard. Now we got to back up because I want you to stay for the GC race too. So as we go back there, look at the GC guys, they're coming down this crazy descent. And we look at Bahrain Victoria, Santiago Buitrago and Tabiri getting dropped. I was sitting on Chesterfield like, you guys are getting dropped. Remember, these guys are about 7 minutes plus back from the 2 guys up front. They're getting ready to try to win today's stage. So as the peloton's coming down this descent and Bahrain Victoria's getting dropped, I'm like, how are these guys getting dropped? Okay, it's wet and slippery, maybe. But then you look up front, it's Tom Pidcock. Tom Pidcock's throwing down through the corners. He's trying to drop everyone. He's like, if you guys make me pay going uphill, I'm going to make you guys pay going downhill when it's nasty and wet out. So Tom Pidcock's bombing down. Vismalisa, the bike's all over him. But Almeida's drifting a little bit off the back there. We'll see Tom Pidcock and the group come back together as I assume it just kind of eased up at the bottom. The gaps weren't big enough. They came back. So let's go up and look at the front because we're coming into just under 1K to go. We're coming into the final climb, what was supposed to be. Mikel Landa, who was leading coming into this, is getting passed by Egan Bernal throwing in his attack. As Egan Bernal is coming around the left side, Mikel Landa doesn't have the legs. He starts to blow. Egan Bernal comes across what looks to be the finish line with the officials blowing the whistle right there. But then there's the start of some other banner in front of him, so Egan Bernal doesn't know for sure. So the Colombian wants to keep driving it for Team Ineos because they want a second stage victory here, and he does not want to be highlighted for losing going into the wrong sprint. So they go all the way up to the next marker there where the officials tell him, no, it was actually back there. That's why you saw the camera guys. So Egan Bernal wins today's stage. Mikel Landa gets second on the stage. Third on the stage was Nico Dens at about a minute back. And then when we look at the GC guys after they caught up with Tom Pidcock there throwing attack, well, they all came into this finish here being led by Vismalisa bike, and they finished just back there and with no change of the race leaders GC for the red jersey anyways, Jonas Vingegaard, and of course Almeida's there. Jai Hindley's in the front group. Pellizzari made the front group. Riccatello made the front group. We look back at the top 10 of general classification. Billy Lesurf did not, and of course Felix Gall did not make this front group. So Felix Gall lost about a minute on the general classification. That was the big shakeup on today's stage 16. So like and subscribe, guys. And as I've been telling you, UAE team members are certainly knuckleheads, because at any moment the Vuelta a España may be finished. Even though the organizers are telling you it's going to continue all the way through Madrid, it may continue all the way through Madrid, but will every stage continue? So you got to understand that right now is almost like COVID in 2020, where the race could end at any moment. You guys better be racing for the race leader's red jersey here as quickly as you can if you're called UAE team members. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the next edition real soon.